Welcome back, crew. Welcome back to the spaceship here. I know I've got the windows open and all that. Just wanted to say hello and do this second part here for YouTube. I hope that you all enjoy this video. I'm going to be talking about my book, Crew of Ganges, which is available on Amazon in ebook and in print. Just look up Crew of Ganges by David Galata, and you'll be able to find that. I would really love to hear from people who've read the book. Please feel free to comment because I want to hear. I want to hear what people think. That's so vital for any author. What I want to do today, unlike the last video, today I really want to talk about the ship itself because I have run into a lot of even big science fiction fans who do not know the concept of a generation ship. And I don't blame people for not knowing it because it's a rarity in science fiction. There are very few books about generation ships on the market today, and even 50 years ago, it is not a very popular topic. And, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure why that's the case. Most science fiction books, the spaceship involved goes faster than light. So it's zipping around the galaxy the way you'd go from, say, uh, Virginia, and you'd head over to, Wyoming. It might take you a couple of days to get there if you're, meandering. Might, take you a little less, but it's not like you're walking there. Walking from one state to another, that's going to take you a long time to do. Walking from one country to another. People are used to grabbing a train and heading over from, France to Italy, and it not taking very long. So the idea of faster than light became wildly popular. And that kind of took over science fiction, but it left out something that I think is really important in science fiction, and that is the generation ship. One thinks of Arthur Clarke's Rendezvous with Rama or Heinlein's Orphans of the Sky. There's also Gene Wolfe's Litany of the Long Sun. These are all fantastic books about generation ships that I highly recommend. If you get a chance to check them out, do so. They're wonderful books. Crew of Ganges here is about a generation ship. So, what is a generation ship? A generation ship is a large vessel that goes slower than light. Well, sometimes up to 15% or 20% the speed of light eventually, but they go slow. So it will take hundreds of years to get to the destination. Those who start the journey will never see the end of the journey, if there is an end to the journey. That's another thing we're going to get into today. Generation ships have to be complete ecosystems. This could be a real challenge for the writer because you have to be able to envision what is required for an ecologically stable situation inside a tin can in hard vacuum. It's not easy. Your air has to come from somewhere. Your water has to be purified. You've got to have food for everyone to eat. You have to be able to deal with waste. So you have to think along these lines, these ecological lines. And what would it mean for the people inside? Do they forget that they're in a spaceship? There's quite a few books about generation ships that have that theme, like Orphans of the Sky, where they have completely forgotten, or the old television series Star Lost. All the people in the ship forgot they were inside a spaceship because it had been so long. However, there are other times when everyone does remember. Crew of Ganges is one of those. The crew know that they're inside of a spaceship. In fact, they're proud of it. They love the inside of the spaceship. There are mountains and trees and forests and rivers. There's even seas. So you need a big vessel. I mean, a really big vessel. Ganges is 560 kilometers long, and its average width is 20 kilometers. So you're talking a really long, huge vessel. that's kind of like rolling up a carpet that is filled with layers now. It's got layers, like an onion. There we go. And each layer will have different environments. Above them are the sky screens. The sky screens have a little bit of UV to keep the plants going. They've got topsoil that's been mulched and growing and turned for generations upon generations. Farmlands as far as the eye can see. And being inside this ship, you rely on the forests to clean your air, to give you your oxygen. It's not bottled or anything like that. Water is an issue because water does indeed run out. It's not always recyclable. And even the best recycling methods, it's going to be twitchy. Materials. You need to repair part of the ship. Something happens and you have to make repairs. Or you need new environments, or you have to build something within the ship. Well, where do you get that from? You're not going to sit there and mine from the hull. Good heavens, I hope not. No, instead, what a ship like Ganges would do would be to stop at an asteroid field. You can grab a lot of water from comets and a lot of other gases as well. That's what comets are. They're frozen water and frozen gases. And from these, you can mine them as you wish. They don't have to be close to the star or the sun in order to do that. Keep it cold. Keep it cold. Keep them on the outskirts, into your cloud, and just dig away. You don't have to worry about disturbing anything. There's nothing there. Same thing with the asteroids. There are asteroids that we have discovered today that are 90% precious materials, such as gold and platinum and lithium and anything you might need. Those asteroids are full of minerals and metals and carbonaceous materials that are really well suited for building materials and to reinvigorate the internal system of a ship. So Ganges has a pair of harbors, and they pull out all kinds of tugs and other vessels, ice cutters and seed ships, and they harvest asteroids and comets for the needs of the ship. This way you don't have to worry about pulling materials up from a gravity well like you would with a planet. Excuse me. You really don't want to do that. It's wasteful. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of fuel. No, you harvest the asteroids. These ships have crews that pass on the knowledge of what it means to be a crew from generation to generation to generation. Now, in the case of Ganges, it doesn't have a mission end. They go from star system to star system, finding dead worlds and terraforming them for future colonists coming from Sol. That's here. So they don't really have an end, but they live in a beautiful paradise. It's absolutely wonderful. So why would you stop? You're home already. You're not heading to a home. You are home. Your children are going to be home. Your children's children will be home. They will all become crew of Ganges. Generation ships to me are fascinating. The mega structures that are required, the superstructures of them. You have to have supports. You have to have thrusters, and you have to have them aligned in such a way that you don't put too much stress on the ship itself because it's so massive. Ganges has a spine, for example, and that spine is a solid bar of high-density carbon molecules, read diamond, that have been connected. And I go into that a little bit in the book. Not too much, but a little bit, enough to whet your appetite. So I'm not going to spoil anything there. But that helps to hold the ship together. It also has other materials wrapping the spine. The spine has layers to it, so it can withstand torque to a degree. You don't want to go too far, but at the same time, you want that strong and slightly flexible. Everyone lives in what's called wheels. These wheels run along the spine, and that's what these little sections are here. They're running along the spine, and each wheel spins in order to give it centrifugal gravity. Now, they've grown up in this environment. They're used to this environment. So for them, stepping out onto a planet, you know, no, an empty sky, no sky screens, goes up forever. The horizon is curving in the wrong direction. They feel like they're going to fall off the planet. Someone from a planet going into Ganges might feel a little constrained. Everything is curving in the wrong direction, going up toward the ceiling, and the sky screens are anywhere from half a kilometer to 10 meters in height. That's still a lot of headroom, but you got to have the right mindset to deal with it. There you go. But since they've been doing it for generations, well, they're quite used to that. There's a lot of recycling that they do, and the things that they can't recycle anymore, they use what's called a catch web that they spin around the vessel when it's ready to terraform. And that collects micro debris, because terraforming is a messy process. And we'll talk about terraforming in one of the future videos. But for right now, generation ships, they have to have a society, but it can't be based on the same kind of ideologies that you find with nations. Nations on a planet, if you're on a planet, there's usually somewhere to go. There's a lot more space on a planet. You don't have to worry about where the air is going or, the water and all of that. You got the ground at your feet. And so there's this idea that it's limitless, and that's not true. A planet is just as finite as a generation ship. It's just a lot larger, and it looks more open. But a generation ship in many ways is a microcosm of a world. But here, because it's smaller and it's contained, if there's a disaster with an airlock, you're going to know about it. Not a week later, not a month later, not 20 years later like on a planet, but that day, you're going to know something went wrong. And so they have a very different point of view on how to take care of their vessel. They're much more careful with their environment because they understand one little thing goes wrong, it can cascade into something much larger, and that changes the society. It changes the entire culture. There's also no real way to avoid each other. Even in a ship the size of Ganges, which can hold up to 60 million crew and still have a lot of elbow room, you're going to meet people from all over the ship. You can't just say, well, no, everyone's mixing together because it is one crew. They don't really think about where their ancestors came from. They came from a planet. They're not on that planet anymore. So why would they even bother worrying about what happened on that planet? They're not there. They're never going to go there. They'll never see it again. Now they have to concentrate on how to live together as crew. And that is something that you do find with generation ships in science fiction, is that the focus is on the ship and the crew. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I will be writing a novella at some point in the future where it doesn't work so well. Because, why not? But with Ganges, this one is a success story for a generation ship. And in its success, it loses sight of some important lessons that they should have kept in mind that go all the way back to ancient Terra. And that's where the real story begins. That's where everything is going on. So, generation ships, they're huge, they're slow. Yes, they're very, very slow, but they are grand. They are the grandest structures, and they're self-sufficient, which Personally, I like that idea. To protect the ship, the forward section, which you can see right there, this area here, that is an ice cap. The ice cap is there so that they have a steady amount of water that they can pull from internally, but it's also there to protect the ship as it travels from one star to another. There's debris in space. You know, it may be far flung, but it's there. And at 10% the speed of light, you don't want to hit even a micrometeorite because it'll go right through you. So instead, they have the big nose cone of ice that then takes the impacts. And whenever they stop at a new star, they refurbish the ice cap. They make a new ice cap. And they replenish their water at the same time. This is efficient. And that's what the crew of Ganges really focuses on, is efficiency. They are obsessed with efficiency in every aspect. Efficiency is their big obsession. Because if you live in a generation ship, that's the way you do it, is by living efficiently. So there's a little rundown on generation ships and what they're about. It is a shame, I think, that science fiction does not have enough of them, because quite honestly, I think they are probably the best way of traveling from one star to another. All right, I can hear that my alarm has gone off, so I'm going to sign off now. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you next time.